Hey guys, welcome to Big Boy Crypto. Today, I'm joined by Q from Subtler Ventures, also with the IOST podcast. We had a big announcement involving IOST over the last couple of days. I wanted to bring him on and chat about it a little bit. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I thought you were calling me to collect the fantasy football funds for a second, but
That's
now
right.
I forgot that you had told me that, we're doing this little episode.
Yeah, I thought about should I live stream the draft tonight on my channel?
You should.
Yeah.
Someone's going to pick Andrew Luck, and it's going to be hilarious.
Well, I was another guy that's in the league with us. He actually is in another league, and he was showing his draft, and he accidentally left it on auto pick, and he ended up with Andrew Luck. So that is
that's tough. But yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Having a great time. So yeah, I'm the DApp lead over at Subtler Ventures, where we have that IOST node. We do the IOST podcast. We also are a venture firm. So we invest in possible projects on the IOST network. Everything's great on our end. How about you?
Yeah, things are going good. Obviously, I've changed the structure. If you guys are coming from the IOST community watching this interview, change the structure of how I've been promoting IOST a little bit. I'm not doing the daily news videos as much. I'm doing kind of bigger picture stuff with crypto. Really trying to push adoption is something I'm really focused on right now, not just with IOST, but with cryptocurrency in general. And so, trying to come up with, new ways of communicating IOST to my audience and things like that. But I thought this would be a great way because we are both part of what is now known as the IGA, and that is not the grocery store. I promised a grocery store reference. That is a grocery store, IGA, but this is different. It is the IOST Global Alliance, and I think you had a hand in writing the announcement there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did hit your quota for the IGA commercial.
One of one.
Hit that. Yeah, definitely. But the IGA, the announcement came out, I believe, yesterday. Mm-hmm. We were in tandem with IOST on that post that they put on their Twitter, their blog, and everything that went out to the community. But basically, for the longest time, nodes like me and yourself and a couple others, and I can read off the founding members inside IOST, Metnix, IOST Toronto, Stash was on there. We kind of all have the same ideas when we would talk to each other about IOST, but we never had really come together as a group. So the genesis of the IGA was, hey, let's all kind of form a Telegram group. Let's talk about these issues and let's really push IOST forward and really stay true to the decentralization aspect that the team preaches a lot, right? They are always talking about sometime in the near future they would like IOST to be autonomous, and it's going to take organizations like the IGA to do so.
Yeah, I agree. And that's honestly one of the things that attracted me to this project is the decentralization of it. And it's kind of a weird thing because as being, we call it in the community tier 1 nodes, which means that the people that vote for our nodes with the basically a DPoS system, they get, a bigger share of the rewards based on how much content we do. And, being tier 1 and really wanting to put out the message of IOST, like it can get a little daunting sometimes when you got to think like the more you try to bring people into the community and the more nodes and partners you try to bring in, it kind of lessens your chance of staying at the top.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the podcast. I think maybe one of the podcasts that we had you on, where as we go on and as the number of nodes increases, that competition is going to be fierce. And we've already seen the jump from quarter 2 to quarter 3, or I believe whatever the first time the vote happened. But yeah, we already see that competition's fierce, so it's only going to get crazier. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do, right? It's to bring in more nodes, create that framework, because a lot of what's happening on a lot of other popular networks is that the apps or the dApps that are being launched on these networks, you have to have a decentralized node framework, or you're going to run into these centralization issues where they can collude together to kind of take control of the network. So it's great. It's a good thing in the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like I said, it's one of those things where it's like you want to stay at the top, but the reason why you want to be involved with this project is because the ones at the top don't end up getting all of the power. And that's really what decentralization is. And I mean, if we look at real governments in the world, that's the way that they work, right? I mean, look at the American government, how it was started, and now you just got a bunch of fat cats sitting at the top, So that's what people think about decentralization. And I want to talk some more about the IGA, but, just when it comes to decentralization, I've been doing a lot of videos where I've been hitting the street. I've been hitting the street. I've been asking people questions. And one thing that I've discovered is people could care less about decentralization, and that's very unfortunate. The thing that they care about is convenience.
Usability.
And I think that's a message that really not just in IOST, but as a community in general, when it comes to cryptocurrency, I feel like that's the idea we should be pushing, because I think until people get out of that comfort zone and feel like, we need to decentralize power around the world or in your country or wherever it might be, I don't think we're going to see people, really pushing to, use decentralized platforms. What do you think about that, Q?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before the podcast. Bitcoin's really the king, right? Everybody kind of, even outside of crypto, knows a little bit about Bitcoin. But it's interesting because we're in the USA, and there's almost an inverse relationship between, countries that need Bitcoin and their amount of knowledge. So as you need it more, so in countries like Africa and countries like, Venezuela, they need to have an understanding of blockchain. They need to have an understanding of crypto, but they often don't have the resources that we do to have that understanding. Yeah. Whereas, as people in the US, if you're trying to explain crypto to your family or anything like that, they don't really, like you're saying, have a need for crypto. I don't need this, right? My currency is relatively stable in that sense. So why do I need to learn about Bitcoin? Well, in other countries like Greece, that it's an obvious need, and you can go to them and they understand what you're saying very immediately because it's happening to them.
Yeah, and I mean, Venezuela 2.0 is coming in Argentina. That's happening right now. Their government just put capital controls where you cannot, transfer over $10,000 US dollars for your Argentinian peso. I said the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is $1,000 premium, so you're having to pay $1,000 more per Bitcoin there just to get it. And the funny thing is, before Argentina had, I'm not sure. Do you know about kind of how this is unfolding in Argentina?
Well, is there a currency being devalued? Wasn't it like a 50% devaluation?
So basically what happened is they had an election, and the incumbent president has been working all these like backdoor deals to kind of keep their debt low and stuff like that, and to pay, make payments. And he got voted out. He didn't even get the nomination for his party. So now while they're transitioning between, he's going to be leaving, but they haven't even had the national election yet to see who's going to take his place. Gotcha. Over that process. Like, everybody's realized, like, oh crap, like, we're in big trouble, and they may default on their debt as a country. And so that dropped the value about 50% of the peso overnight. And so, it's really turning into Venezuela 2.0. And I would say the night before that election where they, ousted him as incumbent president, all those Argentinian people probably felt pretty safe with their peso as well,
Exactly.
So just because you feel safe right now with where your country's at doesn't mean, there's all this talk of a recession and all kinds of stuff, and it won't be as bad as the last time, and it might not be, but it might be. And that's what happens when you only have one currency, one kind of role of government, whatever that you're just okay with, and you don't have any other options, because people in Argentina are finding out, like, at least some of them have Bitcoin as an option, and a lot of people probably have no means to buy it.
Yeah, it's funny how losing 50% of your net worth overnight can have you open your ears, essentially, is what's happening there. So if that's what it takes, it's unfortunate. I think there are a lot of global economic crises going on, and Bitcoin's kind of having its test as far as being a global safe haven asset. If you kind of look at it that way, kind of like gold. But yeah, I think honestly, the IGA is a great way, as far as IOST goes, to decentralize our network that we're working on to push that forward. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing. I'm going to pull it back up here on the screen for everybody to see. So these are the people that are the initial members. Block Arcade was on my show a couple weeks ago. You guys know Crypto Stash, obviously. Inside IOST, I did a recent video with them, IOST Toronto, Metanix, and then Subtler Ventures, and IOST Watch. You put yourself at the bottom. Why?
I think that is in alphabetical order.
It is.
This is all about decentralization. Yeah. Well, speaking of the top on our website, on the landing page, look whose quote is up there at the top of IOSTGlobalAlliance.com. That's
okay. Where
BitBoy.
Oh, is that right? Well, there's my quote right there, guys.
Oh, wow.
Right there, guys. Can you guys believe this? I actually said this. I did. Can I get confirmation that I actually said this?
He did say that. Yes, he said it. Well, you sent it to me.
Did I bold my deeply believe in? I don't know.
I think they did that. So you're moving up in the world, man. You're doing a great job. But I do appreciate. We've had a couple meetings since the IGA informally started. I know the formal launch was like 2 days ago, but yeah. Informally, we've been having meetings for about a month and a half now, and those meetings are absolutely hilarious. We've got Jim O'Connor on there. Appearances, BitBoy always. BitBoy Crypto is one of the best personalities on those calls at all times. So
I appreciate that. That's a high bar. That's a high bar when everybody in there is so dang professional, and I'm the only one other than Connor making jokes nonstop. What's the URL for the?
It's IOSTGlobalAlliance.com.
Global Alliance. I can see that was not taken on GoDaddy, so that's really good.
Yeah, someone didn't snag that before.
I haven't actually visited the website yet, believe it or not.
Yeah, Stash did a great job on this.
Stash is phenomenal at web design. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job. In a short amount of time, he was able to kind of go in there and make sure that everything was taken care of. But the initial goals is a great thing to probably talk about too, near the bottom.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, so basically we have about 5 initial goals to start off with. Jim O'Quinn from IOST Watch and Mike Finch from Sutler Ventures kind of put this together initially. But basically we want to work alongside IOST and ICAC, obviously, and some other IOST organizations to achieve the goals for the protocol. So this isn't going to be like us kind of huddling together and making our own plans. It's going to be us in communication with ICAC, with IOST to figure out what their goals are and how we can kind of as a group do this together.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go to this this genius quote here that was by me, I really believe what I said here, which is why IGA, a decentralized project, needs a team of dedicated community members to succeed. The IGA is a formalized effort by committed IOST community partners and nodes to push forward this project that we deeply believe in. Because if this really is about decentralization, then we shouldn't be dependent upon a team behind the project to push it. Like, I mean, it might sound kind of corny, but I mean, kind of like, what JFK said. I think he's the person that said it, it's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for your country. Is that a real quote from him? I don't know. I think it is.
He could have copied that quote, just like BitBoy Crypto's quote on IOSTGlobalAlliance.com could not be his. I don't know.
I actually stole that from a much smaller node, so they're going to come after me later. But, that's really true. Like, we see this and I know that people in other communities can relate to this when in your Telegram group, whatever Telegram group it is for your project, whether it's the Tron Telegram group, the Cardano Telegram group, whatever it might be, there's people in there that complain that, they complain about lack of marketing, the price isn't going up, all kinds of stuff. Like that's almost across the board. And so it's not like, hey, let's just sit in here and complain about, what may not be getting done or what can be done better. Let's all take responsibility ourselves, like it's not what IOST can do for you, but what can you do for IOST? I don't know what president that was I was, doing an impression of there, but that's really the truth. And that's the way that I look at this is us saying, you know what, we're going to get together as a community and, pull up the bootstraps and let's go out and make this happen,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think in some of our first discussions before the IGA even kind of formally existed, we were talking about how we need to incentivize dApp developers. Why isn't the team incentivizing dApp developers? Yeah. And we were kind of looking at like, well, we have this contribution reward system and they set that up so that the community could kind of take charge and be rewarded for that. So why don't we group together and possibly, and this is one of the goals on that initial goals for IGA, was creating a kind of project fund where we could say, hey, if you come to IOST and you build a phenomenal dApp, which is sorely missing from IOST at this point. We need better dApps. We need better developers. JavaScript's a very popular, coding language. Why can't we get more dApps onto IOST, more popular ones? And that's one of our goals. Hey, instead of just talking about this and saying, why doesn't IOST the team do this? Let's all get together and pool funds and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, if we're in this for more than just like, oh, we just hope we get rich or whatever it might be, then, we all have to look and figure out what we can do, what can we contribute. People have different, talents and gifts, like maybe you don't have a lot of money to donate, but maybe you have time you can donate to help and push this project forward. Because I think we all believe that when it comes to the tech and the way that this project is set up, like it's set up to compete with the big platforms in the space,
Yep. Yeah.
And so what can we do? Because it's just the awareness. The awareness is really the thing I feel like that, we can all do a better job with.
Well, I think what's that?
And that takes money as well, raising awareness, through campaigns or whatever it might be.
It takes a ton of awareness. And I think what we've seen on Ethereum is that first mover advantages are a thing, right? Yeah. Like the Ethereum protocol, while security is, paramount and usability isn't, you see that DeFi is taken off on Ethereum. And that has to do a lot with the amount of developers they have building on Solidity for whatever reason.
Yeah, I know, for whatever reason, right? I mean, that's the one thing I don't understand. Like the Ethereum dev community is just really committed to Ethereum. And other projects like Tron have, made it very easy to move over to a better environment to develop on. Like, I'm not going to, this isn't saying anything about Justin Sun or Tron or whatever, but the fact is like it's easier to build on Tron than it is because you don't have gas you have to worry about. So the fact that even the convenience is not enough to pull people over into that, I mean, it really shows. And I mean, did any of us really believe, like, look, I love Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist by any stretch of the imagination, but I've said ever since I started my channel, I believe Bitcoin will always be number one, and maybe it won't. Maybe something will take it out that's not even created yet. Maybe Libra coin, who knows? But, I believe it's always going to be number one. But at the same time, does anybody believe that if every single crypto project that's out there right now started at the exact same start line, that Bitcoin would actually be the best and number one?
Yeah, that's fair. I completely agree with that. And I wasn't around for that .com bubble. I was around, but I wasn't, getting into the weeds. But that it seems like there's a natural comparison between the .com bubble. There was a lot of websites that probably at that time were, hey, this is always going to be number one. So I wonder, was there a website back then that you thought would have existed forever?
Oh, definitely pets.com.
Pets.com, yeah, and then
Pets.com is the one everybody remembers, and the web van. The web van was another big one I remember. But
what was the web van?
The web van was actually, it's funny because what's really crazy about, and this is really what kind of scares me about a lot of the cryptocurrency projects out there right now, which is if you look at what Webvan was doing, it was a website to where you could order your groceries and they would deliver it to you at your house in a van. It was just about 15 years ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's Uber Eats. Yeah.
So a lot in pets.com, like it had a great idea. I mean, you see, I can't remember the name of the pet. There is a pet website right now.
Chewy,
there you go. Yeah. Chewy, that you can basically do the same stuff you could buy on pets.com, but it's just ahead of its time. Like the world wasn't ready to fully embrace this new way of shopping online, when now we know like almost all brick and mortar stores or stores are going out of business. So I think with cryptocurrency, the question I've always had is, I do believe in a fully tokenized economy. I do believe that one day owning your own or having your own token as a retailer will be as common as having a website is now. The question is, will we go through the same kind of bubble pop that we saw with the .com, bubble, to where all of a sudden these projects, websites then were ahead of their time, they totally collapsed? Or will the crypto projects of now be able to find a way to survive until, that adoption point? Because I don't think the adoption amount of years will be as long as even the internet was, because we just see things like this constantly speed up over time, I think, because the technology develops faster. So I don't know. That's the only question. Will we see like 500 to 5,000 projects just go by the wayside and only be left with 10 or 20 for a few years before more start popping up? I think that's what I wonder.
You could make the argument that already happened with the ICO craze. I mean, most of the guys at Sutler Ventures and the guys at Inside IOST, we all worked together at ICO Alert. And, by the time where we were at our peak, we had 14 full-time employees. And by the time that the ICO, craze had died, and no one could have foresaw that it was going to, be that quick of a cycle, we were running with, 4. So it's just, and I guarantee the .com bubble. There were a ton of .com and tech websites and tech projects that raised a ton of money that were just as bad as the ICO projects that were in 2017. Yeah. So I think you can make the case that already existed with the ICO market and what happened there. But I do agree on like the long term, what you're saying, as far as we still are a little bit out from, like, for example, United States population understanding the need for it. It's just but the world's getting there. The world's getting there. More things like Greece, more things like Venezuela, Hong Kong, all of these global crises, that it's going to make itself known.
Yeah, I definitely totally agree with you there. Those are some comments I've got when I've said some things like we're very far from adoption. Some people have said things like, oh, yeah, but, in other countries, it's not as far. So, that is a little encouraging, but it is kind of also sad at the same time that it takes countries collapsing to be able to adopt this technology. So
yeah,
you certainly hope that's not, there's like this really morbid thing in crypto where it's like, yes, I want all of this to collapse so I can get rich, and I hate that,
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of the Big Short. At the end when the two guys are cheering and Brad Pitt's like, "Do you guys realize what you just did? You're betting against the housing market failing." But yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. I'm used to interrupting people myself, so I never upset because forgive and be forgiven, I suppose. But so the last two things here were to sponsor, host, and participate in events and activities, and then also identify a niche market and build out a robust software developer kit that's superior to the competitors. So what do you think out of these goals do you think is the biggest, kind of the biggest one to chew on?
I think, I'm not a developer, so I don't have that background, and I think other people could speak.
I'm not either.
Yeah, so I think other people can speak on that as in much more in depth kind of words than I can. So as far as sponsoring events, I think taking advantage of the fact that the programming in IOST is JavaScript and having a global hackathon where you can have people from around the world. You don't need to go to this singular event. You can do a global hackathon on IOST and win a substantial amount of money. That would be popular, I think. And if it takes us working with IOST to make that happen, where some, I don't know what it's going to take, and I don't necessarily, to be completely honest, I don't know if the IOST team is ready to shell out that type of money. But if you get 40K, 30K, kind of like what Binance is doing right now with their global game hackathon, if you do things like that, people want to take part. There's enough developers out there. I'll tell you that. I wish we could develop, because that seems like where the money's made.
People do love money, and they love development. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of it. And hopefully through this IGA, we'll be able to, make some moves and make some waves and, continue to spread that awareness, specifically to the English speaking parts, because I believe we only represent the English language. I believe we definitely have some people from Europe, but in the IGA right now, I don't think we have that's really what this is geared toward, is towards America, Western Hemisphere, Europe, things like that, trying to get people involved. So, well, thank you so much, Q, for being on today. I think this has been really enlightening. You guys make sure to go check out the Medium article. I'll post it down below. You can read a quote from yours truly, but you've already read it and heard it out loud. So I don't know what more y'all want from me. So thanks a lot, Q, for coming on today. Tell everybody where they can find you also.
Yeah, man. You guys can find me at that Dap Guy on Twitter. You can do at Sutler Ventures. You can go to our Telegram channel, t.me/Sutler Ventures, to kind of talk with the team and see what we're all about. Other than that, man, thanks for having me on, and we need to have you back on our podcast once we do that rebranding change. Yeah, definitely make that happen. Get me back on the podcast, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about all the notches in my fantasy football league belt. Oh, absolutely. And go Auburn, by the way. When we need to be on like a live stream when Auburn plays Georgia this year. Oh, yeah, because they do that every single year. So, yeah, maybe we should do that. I don't know. We might be like 10-0 at that point, so I don't know if you really want to play us. We'll have to see. True. Well, anyways, thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.